What is up, good people of the internet? As promised, this will be a video explaining a real-world problem that I had that I was able to solve using a custom function in Google Docs spreadsheet using AppScript. So first, let me go ahead and describe the problem to you. Then I'll talk about how I use AppScript to solve the problem. So it happens to me very frequently that I'm on YouTube or some other service, and there's a part of a video that I want to come back to at some point in the future. So right here I have a video of Wynton Marsalis, famous trumpeter, talking about jazz and blues.
Which is the I part, is freedom to express yourself.
And there's this moment around minute 13, second 06 that I want to come back to later. Say that there was maybe 15 or 16 places in this video that I wanted to refer back to later. Maybe I was writing an assignment for school or for work or something like that, and I wanted to kind of keep track of these moments. It's pretty tedious to keep a list of, for example, these URLs and just write the time somewhere in your spreadsheet and come back and kind of use the scrubber to get to each one of them. It would be very, very useful if there was some way to link to get an actual URL that goes right to this location. And it turns out that there is such a link, and I've seen it in the wild. It looks like this. Now, this may or may not make much sense to you, depending on your background, but let's take this one and break it down. So here we have the URL, this embed URL. This right here on line 9 is the YouTube ID, and then you can see that there's two pieces of information that you place in the query string. One is the start and one is the end, and you can see right here that this 806 doesn't quite correspond to the timestamp we have, which is 12 minutes 45 seconds, etc. It turns out that this right here, Google's kind of internal format they use for linking to starts and ends, uses seconds and not the actual minute colon second colon format. So now let's check out what this URL does for us. If I were to put this in the address bar, hit enter, I see the screen with the play thing, and it links to, down here it was 13:26, even though this right here says 806. So when I first saw this, I said, well, I guess I don't maybe need to use the seconds. I can use this minute second notation right here. And just notice for a second that right here this says 13:26. And let's stick it in the address bar and see where it takes us. If I press play here, you'll see that it takes me to 13:07. I've tried this in lots of videos just to kind of get my head around it, but for whatever reason it doesn't quite work. It gets the minute right, but it gets the second wrong, and it might be some internal format that's processing it in some way that I don't understand. But it turns out that we just really need to send the seconds, the number of seconds. So that would be the number of minutes times 60 plus the number of seconds. And if this happens to be a video that is more than, say, an hour long, it'll be the number of hours times the number of times 60, etc. You need to calculate the number of seconds up to that point in the video. Now, this is relatively a tedious task to do manually, so let me show you how I went about solving this problem with the custom function in Google Spreadsheet. So the first thing I did was extract the ID from the YouTube video. The next thing, I wanted to keep track of the start and end times in this hour, minute, second format. You can see right here on line 3 that this is in the hour format. Here, this is minutes, etc. So the custom function, and I'm assuming at this point that you have watched the video explaining the basic custom function. And if you haven't, I'll link that right above here. So let's go ahead and look at the custom function signature we have in one of these columns. So you'll notice that up here it says YouTube link D2, E2, F2. So this is the D2 column, E2 column. F2 column. Now let's open up our app script tab so we can see the functions that I've made. And here I have two JavaScript functions, and I will post a link to these online so that you can download them if you want to. That link will look something like this. It's on GitHub Gists. So in these two functions, I have a function called toSecs and a function called YouTube link. And these two functions have separate purposes. The first one is to, given a timestamp in the form of hour, minute, second, it tries to calculate the number of seconds. And then the purpose of the YouTube link function is to generate this URL according to the Google internal standard, taking an ID and then the start and end seconds. I'm only calling the YouTube link from the spreadsheet, but internally this YouTube link function itself calls the toSecs, sending in the timestamp. So it actually calls this for the end times. Now I could go into a little bit more detail. Maybe I will in a little bit, but let's see how what this actually looks like in the spreadsheet. Right here we have our ID, then we have our start and end stamps, and then you can see the link that gets created says 806, 816. And you can see that these are active. If I change this to, for example, 27, you'll see that the link will then change to 807. Go ahead and change this back to 6. And let's go ahead and click on this link just to make sure it is doing what we think it is. So it does start us.
Then the blues aesthetic is our spiritual overview, which is optimism in the face of adversity, and an optimism that's not naive.
All right, so that links to that moment. So if there were many moments, I could keep track of them in this spreadsheet. And when I want to refer to them, I can come back to the spreadsheet and click on those links and go right to that moment in time. And this is actually kind of the beginning of maybe a more formal solution that I'm considering maybe making an app where I can kind of keep track of moments that are important to me with some metadata about those moments. Say who's in it, what it is I'm linking to, the description or the purpose of that moment. And just to be thorough, let's go ahead and check out this other video, also Wynton Marsalis trumpeter interview, talking about basic impulses, and I have extracted the ID and the start and end stamps in hour, minute, and second notation. So I'll hover over here, get this link, takes me to this video. So that's working as expected. All right, well, that about wraps it up. And just thought that would be helpful to see a real world example of a problem that was a bit tedious and not super easy to solve by myself every time trying to generate one of these links in seconds instead of hour, minute, second. So hopefully that's helpful and gives you an idea of what you can do with a custom function in Google Spreadsheets. As I said in my last video, I am new to YouTube and I'm just getting started. I've watched a lot of videos from other very knowledgeable people sharing what they know and how they are able to solve problems that I'm not yet able to solve and helping me along my path. And so I'm looking to give back. So if you'd like to support me in that mission, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. That helps the Google algorithm let people find me and the content I'm sharing. Trying to find my feet and looking forward to giving back to the community that has given me so much. I've learned a tremendous amount. So if you'd like to help me and support me in that, go ahead and subscribe and comment. And if you like, you can hit the bell to be notified when I upload a new video. I appreciate your support and hope you found this useful.